Look at this. The gap between the second best tennis player and the third best is bigger than the gap between the number 3 and number 100 in the world. This is an anomaly. It shouldn't happen. But yet, it's been like this for a while now. Sinner and Alcaraz are playing a different game, and they've created a literal chasm between themselves and the rest of the tour. And today, from the grounds here at Roland Garros, we're getting into exactly how that happened, whether anyone can close the gap, and honestly, whether we've even seen anything like this before. At the very top, you've got Jannik Sinner, who's creating history every tournament he plays. He's just completed the career Golden Masters, something only Djokovic has pulled off.
It's quite simple. I think there's a big gap between Sinner and everybody else.
Right behind him is Alcaraz, who's been injured for a bit now. But here's where it gets interesting. After those two, there's a literal cliff. Zverev, the third-ranked player in the world, has just over a third of Sinner's points. And if you want to understand what that looks like on court, Sinner is 9-0 against him in their last 9 meetings. 9-0. And it wasn't even close most of the time. Out of 21 sets played across those matches, Zverev has only won 2 of them.
Jannik is better than me at the moment. It's as simple as that.
The Zverev-Alcaraz matchup has been a little bit more competitive, but even at that, the gap in quality is clear. Now, I want to be clear, this isn't a dig at Zverev. He's won literally everything on tour except a slam. He's still elite, and that's actually what makes these numbers insane. So we have Zverev being the best of the rest, Djokovic not included because he's in a league of his own as a part-time player, and of course, the greatest in the history books. So Zverev has won everything there is to win except for slams. And more often than not, he's only losing to the top 2 guys. The gap between him and the 100th ranked player, a little over 5,000 points. But here's what might surprise you. We've actually seen this movie before. Dominant players have always come and gone, and the sport has had eras. It's hard to believe, but a decade earlier, the top 10 looked like this. Murray and Djokovic at the top, and then all of these guys, who, by the way, were super talented in their own right. And if you go further back in time, we saw a similar kind of dominance from Nadal and Federer, with both men doing exactly this to a generation of gifted players who never really got their moment. 2 guys separating themselves from the entire sport. And you could say that it even all started about a year ago, right here on this very court behind me. It's a recurring theme in the sport, but why does it keep happening? Well, the reasons aren't exactly far-fetched. First, we have point structure. The top guys win the tournaments that guarantee the most points. 2,000 points from a Grand Slam is equivalent to 8 250s, 4 500s, or 2 Masters 1000s point-wise. Think about how physically impossible it would be to grind those numbers without performing at slams. Sinner and Alcaraz don't just show up at the big events, they win them. Consistently. This is where the separation starts. Second, we have what can only be described as an all-surface mastery. For reference, look at the American guys in the top 10, and they mostly grew up on hard courts. That's their world. Zverev is devastating on clay and solid on hard courts. Most of these players have a surface where they thrive and surfaces where they manage. Sinner and Alcaraz, meanwhile, have genuinely mastered all 3. Clay, grass, and hard. They're legitimate threats every single week of the year. That adds up over 52 weeks in a way that the surface specialists just can't replicate. Next, we have the psychological edge. Most players at the elite level can maintain their level under pressure, and you could say that's probably what got them there in the first place. But maintaining your level and elevating it are completely different things. Sinner and Alcaraz, when it's a slam final, when it's match point, when the moment is the biggest it can be, they simply play better. That's extraordinarily rare, and the results have been screaming for years now. And this brings me to the last point, which is perhaps the most controversial. Sinner and Alcaraz are simply better than the rest of the tour. These guys are so far ahead because they're simply more talented in every department. For the rest of the tour, their best just isn't good enough.
My best is not good enough.
Now let's get into the numbers. This is the TDI Insights leaderboard over the last 52 weeks. It tracks the top ATP players using advanced metrics like performance rating, steal, conversion, and shot quality. These numbers reveal who's been the most consistent, who thrives under pressure, and whose shots truly set them apart. And at the top of basically every single category, we have Sinner and Alcaraz dominating almost every single metric: conversion, steal, return, forehand, and backhand. Both Jannik and Carlos are exceptional at converting defense into offense in a single shot. You can put them on the stretch, and they don't just survive the rally, they find a way to flip it on its head. This takes both insane athleticism and technique that the rest of the tour just isn't at yet. The ball striking data on these two is legitimately different from the rest of the field. They're generating pace off both wings, from open stance, end range, on the run, which is something that most players just aren't capable of.
Yannick can step up and, like, for example, go down the line, but not many players can do the backhand down the line and do it every time almost as a winner. He can do it like for 3 sets, step up, down the line, strong shot, and then he's super fast to cover the forehand side.
They've both retooled their serves. Carlos with the Djokovic-like motion, and Sinner with more pop while simultaneously increasing his accuracy on the serve. This data, courtesy of Matt Willis, reveals the gap between the top two and the rest of the tour. The 115-match sample size shows what happens when the current top 20 players, excluding Sinner and Alcaraz, play each other when hitting a first serve. Here we see the percentage of serves in play, aces, plus ones, and points won on average. They win more points, and the percentages are better. Now, when these same players meet Sinner or Alcaraz, everything changes completely. A 6.1% decrease in aces or unreturned serves, a 6.5% decrease in points won when hitting a forehand after their serve, an 8.4% decrease in points won when hitting a backhand after their serve, and overall a 7.5% decrease in first serve points won. These percentages are insane because the top 20 are, in theory, the closest in level to the top 2 guys, but somehow there's still so much difference. And it gets even worse when we look at the second serve. Now guys, on average, you lose more points when hitting second serves against Sinner and Alcaraz because they're the best returners on tour by a mile. They put more returns in play and win more points. But here's where it gets even wilder. Even when Sinner and Alcaraz aren't at the top of their game, their floor is still higher than the ceiling of pretty much every other player. It's almost like there's no difference if you're ranked, say, 83, or if you're the 22nd best player in the world. It's probably going to be the same scoreline. Sinner in straights. You'll be lucky to win a handful of games.
I was very happy that I won at least one game, but because the way how Yannick played.
So why are they so far ahead in actual ability? A big part of the answer is due to how fast they learn. Sinner and Alcaraz are insanely fast at learning, not just in the abstract sense, but taking in new technical information, tactical data, physical adjustments, and actually implementing it quickly on tour. Like, within weeks. Sinner talked about adding more variety to his game, and then, almost immediately, started doing it. He's done it quicker than any other player I've ever seen. He tweaked his serve, started using drop shots more, started varying the angles, depth, pace, and height on his balls, plus many other intangibles that I'm sure I'm not even aware of, and he did this all between tournaments. Now, compare that to players who have been trying to fix the same problems for years. Ruud still hasn't cracked grass. The American men are still figuring out clay. Some guys have return game issues that have been there for their entire careers. And for a few, well, they have fundamental flaws in their technique that perhaps will never go away. 2 decades ago, rapid improvement was genuinely harder for a lot of players. It took Federer a couple of years to solve the Nadal puzzle to his backhand, and it took Djokovic a few years to turn his serve into a dangerous weapon. These days, the speed with which data is utilized means it's a major weapon for the players who can actually put it in place. For clarity's sake, some of these improvements include video breakdowns, ball tracking stats, opponent tendency charts, physical load metrics, and all of it can be processed, analyzed, and sent to a player's team in real time. Players who can actually use that information, who can hear a technical cue, visualize it, and translate it into their body on court, are going to have a massive edge. Over the last decade, we've seen a tour-wide adoption of hitting harder, deeper return positions, sliding and open stance movement, use of drop shots a little more, and different racket setups. Equipment has gotten lighter, and strings have gotten more powerful. The average baseline rally in a top 100 match today is just faster than it was 10 years ago. This means everyone on tour has been forced to evolve literally just to stay exactly where they are. The floor has risen. Look at Zverev. He's a perfect example. He's someone who's not standing still. He's had excellent results. But the ceiling he's running into isn't just Sinner and Alcaraz's talent, it's that their version of tennis is actively moving away from where the rest of the tour can physically reach. This brings me to the part that might be the most uncomfortable thing in this whole conversation. In previous years, it felt like there was a highly functional subset of players right after the Big Three or Big Four. Your Berdiches, Ferrers, Wawrinkas, and Del Potros. These guys took sets, took matches, definitely caused problems. You had generational players coexisting with genuinely dangerous competition in an era that produced a lot of top-heavy tennis. Right now, it feels different. We still have the generational players. Sinner and Alcaraz are clearly that. But perhaps the talent pool beneath them feels thinner than that previous era. And it's that combination, generational talent at the top, plus a relatively weaker supporting cast, is what's making the gap look the way it does in the rankings. It's a genuine separation when it comes to class, consistency, and capability, and I don't see it getting any better for the rest of the tour anytime soon. So where do we go from here? The honest answer is, closing a gap this size realistically requires winning slams. That's the only event where the points redistribution is big enough to actually matter. And to win a slam right now, you're going to go through one or both of these guys. Alcaraz is injured at the moment and is going to be missing Roland Garros and Wimbledon. Sinner has a lot of mileage on his legs and can show cracks, but only if you make points extremely physical for long enough, and this is just because he's played a lot of tennis over the past few months. But honestly, with all that said, I think a new slam winner from outside the top two would change the psychological landscape of the tour in a real way. New belief, new willingness to take risks, more players willing to rethink their entire game just to find an edge. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that the gap is going to close anytime soon. It won't. But that being said, I would love to see some of these other guys start to chip away at it. Because simply put, the tour is just a better product when the threat is real. Guys, I'll be here in Paris and around France over the next few weeks to put together a few stories for you here on the channel. So of course, like, subscribe, turn on post notifications so you don't miss a thing here on Courtside. And until next time, keep going for the lines.